What in the Week with Nikki Woods.
Hello and welcome to another edition of What in the Week. I'm Nikki Woods. Now, the George Zimmerman trial began this week with F-bombs and a knock-knock joke, and there hasn't been a dull moment since. But what makes this coverage different from some of the other high-profile television trials in the past is the presence of social media. It's already been dubbed trial by internet. And just like everyone else, we will be watching and tweeting throughout. Speaking of global visibility and technology, R&B singer Joe releases his 10th album this summer entitled Double Back, Evolution of R&B. Here he talks about the unorthodox way it was produced.
I got to give a lot of credit to my brother, DOA, who co-produced this album with me. He lives in San Francisco, and the way we did this album, we never even met each other. You know, basically, we did the album basically over the phone, over the internet, and it was smooth.
Thanks, Joe. Joe's single is called I'd Rather Have a Love. Now, this question is mostly for the ladies, but men feel free to chime in too. Ever had a bad hair day? Well, if you have, then you know what a relief it is to find a style that is easy to maintain and looks good too. Now imagine that hairstyle being banned. This is precisely what happened at an Ohio school that dared to ban Afro puffs and twisted braids. Find out why this ruling made my hair stand on edge when you read my blog, Why Black Girls' Hair Should Not Be an Issue in Schools on blackamericaweb.com. And we know nobody is perfect, but when it comes to celebrity apologies, comedian David Alan Grier says presentation
but you gotta
is
do
everything.
it right.
Yeah.
You know, you get caught out. I've been caught out there. You know, you can't be like, I was naked with that woman because we were doing yoga. I love you. You gotta kind of fess up and say, look, I was wrong. Let's move on.
Coming up, teaching our kids to give back, but first, have you ever felt like it's tougher to fall asleep on some days more than others? Well, a new study finds that Sunday is the night more Americans have trouble sleeping. And no, it has nothing to do with the Atlanta housewives, as disturbing as they can be at times. A couple of the reasons are worrying about the Monday waiting for us and messing up our normal patterns by sleeping in on Saturdays and Sundays. And these are obviously people with no children. Some proposed solutions other than getting rid of the children: limiting caffeine and alcohol on Sundays and getting more sunlight during the day. Also keeping a worry journal. Yeah, right. I gotcha. Now, if you do have children, switching gears here, you know how important it is to teach them to give back. Mama's Gone Wild co-host Mary Boyce and I discussed this topic with Cookie Hudson.
And I know one of the things that we run into a lot, where at least I do, even with adults, is people think that when you talk about like giving back to the community or doing community service, that it has to be like some big production. That, you know, it's not. And sometimes I think it's important to stress that it's the little things. It could be just picking up the cans outside of your house so that the neighborhood is clean, or making sure that there's no glass on the ground at the park. It's things that you can incorporate into your daily lives. It doesn't mean you have to designate a day and say, okay, on this day, you know, I'm going to feed 20,000 people. It can be the small things that contribute to the larger picture.
I agree. And with our young girls, we actually started with taking them, you know, to certain events like feeding the homeless and going to nursing homes and also to shelters. And I thought it was important to take them to shelters where young kids are, so that they can see how privileged they are. And so I know we had, you know, when they had the bombing at the school, I was really impressed with my girls because they wanted themselves to like give back to those girls.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, we're grateful that we instilled that value. Yes, it worked.
Good information, Cookie. Thank you. Now, last week we talked about TV One's R&B divas wrapping up their second season, and before we got a chance to miss them, the ladies were back with their reunion show, Part 1. Yes, Part 1. I think this reaction from superfan Black Sheep Music sums it up.
First, we're going to talk about the R&B divas reunion special Part 1. I was super late to the party because I didn't even know they were going to do a reunion show. I was out the loop. So I just caught what was to me the best part, and that was who was it? Selena and Nikki kind of going at it. And I caught a little bit of Nikki and Angie.
R&B Divas Reunion Part 2 airs Wednesday. I can't. What more can be said about celebrity chef and professional apologizer Paula Deen? Well, let's give comedian Rudy Rush the last word.
And that was crazy because I was just with her a few weeks ago, and I was like, What's so funny? Let me tell you something. People who use that word, especially white women, they know the brothers. Trust me. They don't use that word just because. Somebody done stole a recipe or two out of Paula Deen's closet. So I wasn't mad.
And finally, Kim Kardashian and Kanye have announced the name of their new baby girl. It is Northwest. Yes. My question is, since he's from Chicago, what would have been wrong with Southside? I'm just being silly. I'm Nikki Woods. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time for What in the Week.
When